Hi, Craig. Hi, Chris.
Yo.
Christopher.
No,
You
it's
have
not Christopher.
my name is Christopher because our guest name is Chris.
You can just call me Rev or Panda. Either one's fine with me.
Yeah.
I don't actually call you Chris anyway. I just call you Waples. So
Yeah. Well,
You have too many online handles. It has been very confusing for me so far.
yeah, especially since like I'm like my LARP character's name in my own Grumpy Dungeon Master Discord, and like BattleNet thing's a whole separate thing. So yeah, yeah.
Yep. I have multiple handles as well, but primarily it's J or Dead Guy. That's the online handle I use most of the time.
I mean, I
Make
did
you
have
feel
that
better.
problem for quite a while until I finally narrowed it down to what I felt was my core personality.
You being
a reverend and a panda.
A reverend and a panda.
Yeah.
A panda of the Holy Faith.
The panda of the Church of Holy Bamboo.
A panda that saves people.
Yeah, on occasion, and gets people drunk.
Speaking of pandas and bamboo, have you ever played the board game Takanoko?
Yes, I have. Well, I can't remember a lot. I don't remember how to play, but I remember like going, "Ooh, pandas," and playing the game.
Yeah, basically, you are a gardener for the Emperor, whose entire job it is to prevent the panda from eating all the bamboo in the garden.
Oh yes,
that sounds like my wife's job for me in the house.
I remember because my biggest problem was as I was rooting for the panda during the game.
Everybody does, including me.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's kick this off right. Yay, we have a special guest again because it's been 10 episodes. Yay!
Yeah, has it been 10 episodes?
I'm special.
Yeah, this is 40. Yeah. We're getting close to a year of Grumpy Dungeon Mastering.
It's true. I got confused because we had 2 back-to-back guests. Last time we had guests on here is 1 week and then the next week. So
that just comes from me. I just throw like, "Hey, you guys want to be on the podcast?" And 2 people responded back yes at the same time, and they're much more important and busy than I am. So I was like, "Well, back to back it is."
Yeah, we'll work with your schedule.
Right. But our guest, Reverend Panda, is a guy that I found on Twitch after our live stream we did Rhyme of the Frostmaiden. I rated him, and since then I've been watching his channel pretty regularly. He is on every day on Twitch, normally in the afternoons.
Yeah, Eastern time, 12 to 4. At least that's what I shoot for.
Yeah, and he just basically does campaign building on Twitch, which amazes me that there's an audience for that, but I guess there is. And
you and me both.
You had just started, and then like when we rated you, we got you some more subs, and then like you got rated a couple days later, and then you got affiliate within like less than a week.
It was pretty much at the 2-week mark of all my streams that I got affiliate.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'll just have him on as the guest because DMs are DMs at the end of the day.
That we are.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you really? What's your DMing? What's your edition? We will judge you heavily.
Yeah, let's start with what edition did you actually start with, and what edition do you primarily run?
I started on 2nd edition. I used to play at my local comic book shop. We played the old Living City games, if you were familiar with those. Essentially the precursor to the RPGA.
I'm familiar with the name, but I'm not. I started in 2nd ed as well. So.
Yeah. It was pretty much the same idea. You had ongoing characters. You could bring them to different gaming conventions and carry on your XP and your items and everything else like that. If anything, it was actually even more involved because you could be like a landowner and have like pets you could, like on certificates you could take from game to game. It's pretty cool. Nice. But I started with that at my comic book shop. And I gotta say, I was horrible at it. My first character was a dwarven fighter because, drinking dwarves, fighting, awesomeness. But I was god-awful as a role player. I gotta admit, I was garbage. And then I was talking to my DM at the time and the comic book guy who ran the store. And my DM was a part of a live-action role-playing game called Lair that happened at a camp up in New Jersey. and he convinced me to give it a try. Well, I got into the game, and I gotta say that while I died in the first 10 minutes of being in the game, because I was dumb, it was also a fantastic experience and made me a better role player. And then that pretty much, those two things together hooked me into the gaming completely. And then from D&D, we transferred on into 3rd edition, and then 3.5, and then the dark days happened, and then we got to 5th.
You mean the dark days where we continued to play 3.5 and waited for a 5th edition?
Yeah, and some people off-curved into Pathfinder. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to try and say that I didn't dabble, that I did somewhat play the other edition, but you know,
like, we don't hate on here. Like Waple's actually
we
started.
don't.
With, I try not to. I mean, you started with 4th edition. You know, it's not your fault. You know, you are not to blame for that.
You know what's to blame for it is honestly it's Chris Perkins and Acquisition Incorporated, because they started at 4th edition as well too. So it wasn't just me. Just the most successful gaming thing on that can rival even Critical Role all started in 4th. So
yeah,
and you know, 5th edition is just 4th edition with advantage.
Critical Role, however, was playing 3.5 before they went to 5th.
They were playing Pathfinder before they went to 5th.
Yeah, that's okay. 3.75.
Which, admittedly, Pathfinder is nothing more than a super nerdy, gooey version of 3.5.
Yeah.
It was somebody looked at 3.5, saw all of the crunchy numbers and all the ridiculous amount of things you could choose from, and went, I want to times that by 3. Can I just get more stuff? And that's Pathfinder. Can I get 3 new abilities every single level? Because I want that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you ramp up all of the enemies and you don't mind wasting 6 hours on a single combat.
Yes, pretty much. As for a favorite edition out of all of those, it's got to be 5th. A 3.5 holds a very special place in my heart, and there are many things that I was actually waxing nostalgia about 3.5 today for a bunch of things that I loved in that edition that I think not having in 5th edition was a failure on the part of the 5th edition.
Such as?
While I definitely appreciated the more limited skill list, there are certain abilities that were in skills that to me should have stayed. One of them being an appraise skill. I liked having a separate ability that somebody would just essentially, it was the knowledge economy skill. So you could figure out how much things were worth. And I also really missed concentration as a skill, because not every wizard's going to have this great old constitution bonus, and not everybody wants to take Warcaster. And it was a nice way that you could still maintain concentration on things without having to worry about, requiring almost every caster to take Warcaster.
I will admit that still to this day that I don't know the rules for concentration off the top of my head, and I just kind of just make a d20 roll, and like if it's high I succeed and if it's low I failed.
I always ask my player Jacob because he's our rules lawyer.
Well, I can't stop and ask my rules lawyer every single time I need to do that. And the funny part is too is like ever since I brought up concentration on the podcast like 3 or 4 weeks ago, my players are reminding me about it every single time it happens.
When it comes to concentration checks, a lot of times I don't think about it much towards like small hits of damage. Like I don't worry about it for every melee hit. But if there's a significant damage hits the field, then I gotta call for it. And usually you have to make a Constitution save, and it has to be higher than half the amount of damage you took.
Or 10, I think, is the lowest.
Which is why I don't worry about it when it's small damage, and I only worry about it when it's large damage.
Yeah.
Like if the damage hit 30, that's a reasonable enough time for me to start calling for checks.
Yeah.
Usually, if it's not that high, I'm usually not going to worry about it. Because for the most part, I don't like the concentration rules the way they stand.
Yeah, because like if you take, I guess the rule is half the damage. That's the save. Okay, so like when my Runic Knight fighter gets in, and does this great weapon master feat and hits for like 45 damage. There's just no way it's safe in after that,
Yeah,
unless you're some kind
you
of
got to roll. You have
legendary
to roll a
beast.
nat 20. Like you need to get the
Right.
nat 20 at that point.
Well,
So
like,
So I've just been failing it right off the cuff. I'm like, yeah, you can't. You just got hit by a truck. You can't think about anything anymore.
I mean, if I were to be a schmuck about it with my players, it's not that hard to like get someone to break concentration because it's a luck roll at that point. It's going to be something like, all right, cool. The cleric has bless up. I'll have the rogue character sneak around, and we'll stab once main hand. Off hand, we'll do another stab. That's 2 attacks in. Roll twice. Like all I have to do is just keep giving you little hits. Eventually, you're just going to roll low. Unless you have Warcaster, then you have advantage on it, which once again is if you're a caster, you have to take it because it's the only way to get around it.
yeah, it makes things like magic missile incredibly good at breaking other people's concentration, or what's the not firebolt, but there's the one where you can throw a whole bunch of little fire spells at.
Scorching Ray.
Scorching ray, thank you. Yeah, each one of those, every time it hits, that's another concentration check.
Absolutely. In fact, even the warlocks with their Eldritch Blast, you just keep getting more blasts as time goes on. They're amazing at breaking other casters' concentration.
Mhm.
Especially because the damage is actually all right. Like, you roll well, you're going to be having to make 11, 12, 13 DC saves. Just got to roll low once.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, if you have to do it 4 times, there's odds are you're going to miss it at least once.
Yeah. And if it breaks your bless, boohoo, it's not that big of a deal. If it breaks like your summoning spell that you have concentration on that you cast at like 4th level, and all that you got defeated by was a cantrip, that's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, or if it breaks the fly spell that's on the barbarian, that is currently 300 feet in the air, that could be a problem.
I usually support barbarians falling out of the air though, so. But yeah, no, 5th edition is definitely home at this point. I may wax nostalgia about 3.5, and if I ever make anything custom, I almost always go looking at what 3.5 did with something first, for like inspiration.
Yeah.
But 5th edition has definitely become home.
It's just so easy to tailor 5th edition into homebrew content too. I mean, like, I've seen 4 or 5 different Star Wars variants, and then there's SW5E.com that has theirs, which is probably the most popular one. I've seen like 3 or 4 different Fallout versions of 5th edition, and then you have Chris Metzen and his Warchief Gaming Group coming out with their own campaign setting using 5th edition rules, and then Critical Role technically before it became official.
Carbon was it Carbon 2077, which is
that one.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
So yeah, 5th edition seems to be like the edition. I'm of the opinion they're gonna make a 6th here soon, but
I mean, we're coming around to that time, and I don't want it, honestly. There's so many things they haven't yet done with 5th edition. There's settings they haven't touched on. Man, I want a Dark Sun book.
Everybody wants a Dark Sun book. It's never going to happen because everybody wants a Dark Sun book.
Just give me my damn Dark Sun book.
Yeah, well, they have a new setting coming out soon. Soonish, like this year, I think. But everybody's on the idea that it's Dragonlance, and I think it probably will be just because they have their new novels coming out.
Yeah,
fair enough.
There's a rumor for the Dragonlance. The Feywild rumor still going around. The Domain of Dread's coming out next month. This month.
Yeah, really soon.
The problem that I see with the as far as Dark Sun goes not coming out is mostly because evolving the world of Dark Sun to see time pass like you do in the Faerun books and stuff like that. Dark Sun doesn't evolve into anything extra great. It's the initial setting where you have all of the Sorcerer Kings up and going, where Tyr's just been sort of had their revolution. That's the time of really amazing things that happen. And I don't know what they could do with the storyline that then makes the world more interesting after that. Because it's a survival game, essentially. It's a world of discovering the secrets of it.
Have you read any of the novels?
I have 3 of them. Having read them yet? No.
Okay,
I'm a book hoarder.
Yeah, I got a whole bookshelf I've never even touched. I understand, but the Dark Sun novels, I did read a lot of those, and things did change. Like several of the Sorcerer Kings were killed off.
Oh,
The dragon was actually killed as well. So if they pick up years after where the novels sort of left off, because they haven't written any, Dark Sun novels in over 20 years at this point, but they could definitely do things differently going forward.
I get it's just like all those things are the really super interesting to me as far as like all the different Sorcerer Kings, and now you're telling me they're all gone.
No, 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 only a few of
Now,
them.
the only thing I really I'm curious about is the cannibal halflings.
As far as I know, they're still there, but I'm not sure they ever even wrote about them in the novels.
No, probably not. But they were definitely one of my favorite parts about Dark Sun.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Just the fact that you have this tribe of cannibal halflings who live in a like there's this little tiny section of the Dark Sun setting that's a jungle,
Yep,
and it's just all cannibal halflings that live there.
cannibal halflings riding raptors.
Yeah, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so good. Of all the
It may,
fierce races, the halflings were the ones to be feared.
Yep.
I mean, it could be a number of reasons why they haven't done Dark Sun yet. I mean, I should have bought the fourth edition books when I had the chance to, but I never did. And I know
eBay.
they're going for a very pretty penny right now, and that may be the reason why they're not retooling it right now, because you can just buy the fourth edition Dark Sun books and then just run it in 5e. It's very little has to change between the two, and that may be the reason. Or the authors or creators or whatnot, there's probably a licensing issue or something like that. I'm not sure.
That I could see, but I mean, with enough people clamoring for something, it just seems unlikely that they would just say no to money.
They do like money. That's the reason they've
Like,
got the whole DM's Guild thing going. So.
I mean, money good. Give me Dark Sun, I will give you more.
I'd rather them come up with a whole new fantasy setting that's completely untouched and unused. Like bringing in all the Magic the Gathering stuff is very interesting, and they're sold very well. So they should definitely take up the like Zendikar pamphlet that they had and make that a whole setting. You know, we both think that Magic the Gathering is going to be integrated into D&D very soon officially. So I mean, the opposite is happening in 2 months. So
hey kids, want to buy some Magic cards? We like money.
Oh, I played that a lot too. Same comic book store, Wednesday night drafts. Yeah. Booster drafts every single Wednesday night. I have so many Magic cards, I don't know what to do with any of them.
You need to look through the old ones and sell them because they're very valuable now.
Ooh.
Yeah, very valuable. So one thing I want to talk about is you and your Twitch stream. You hop on, like I said, every single day and pretty much just draw maps and create characters. You've done a couple sessions of homebrewing different classes and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And your stream is relatively successful because of it so far. What is the one thing you like to do as a DM when it comes to like your creative process? Is it making maps, or is it designing tokens that you spend 4.5 hours on?
Well, yeah. My favorite part of like the whole creative process. It's always for me. It's like, while I like the initial part of like of the stories, like how I'm going to introduce my characters to the world. Once I have my characters like established, it's how I can make the stories personal. How can I like tug at the heartstring? How can I make them more invested in the game than just there's a village under attack? So a lot of times it's my favorite part of the creative process is my flow charts. This person is tied to this person who is tied to here, and this is happening on this part of the world, and I've got an oracle in the party, so now they can find out what's going on over here. Now they have to choose: are they going to save their friend over here, or go save the sister who's in trouble on the other side of the world? It's giving the players options, making them personal, and just the weave of the world together, I guess. I'm not sure how whether that was just a rambling set of words or whether that actually explains something.
Made perfect sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of my like original notes and stuff like that, when I get into a city, like when I'm creating like a new place that my characters are going to go, I almost always start with like, what are the organizations that are there. I want to make my NPCs. I want to know how the different NPCs are tied into each other, and I make no connections as to what my players are actually going to be doing there. Like, if like this is now just I have made a setting. This is a living, breathing thing. Things are going to happen here whether you interact with them or not. And what do you do as a result? So like they went to one of my capital cities, and I'd set up a thieves guild and their power structure and who was in charge and who was the head of the captain of the guard and who they reported to within the kingdom hierarchy. And they like found themselves at odds with different individuals within the city just due to who they talked to. They started, asking questions about one particular noble at a prostitution house, a house of lady favors. And next thing they know, they're getting pulled into a side alley by a member of the local thieves guild, wondering why they're inquiring about somebody. Meanwhile, these guys were just looking for a fighting arena to go a little crazy in. So just sort of these things that like tumble together and interconnect, and the story then just sort of weaves itself, which is always nice.
Yep. Yeah, like I'm in the process of setting up my new campaign. I finish up Icewind Dale probably next weekend, and after that, I've got a campaign I've been working on for the past few months. And at this point, there are 21 different cities that I've got at least the basics fleshed out, and now I'm in the process of creating all the NPCs and the who controls what and so forth. So I'm actually in the process of doing exactly what you're talking about. A lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
work. It's a lot of work, but I know that once I'm done with all of it for all these cities, I don't have to mess with it again until the players really just sort of interact and mess up things.
Oh, yeah.
Makes me feel super lazy because all I'm doing is just writing homebrew stuff and putting it up on DM's Guild and just using Faerun as a backdrop for everything.
It's
I like Faerun, but I have a number of players that I have my regular group that I've run for 3 years right now, and then I have 2 other groups that I've been running since COVID kicked in about a year ago. And I didn't know any of the guys from my COVID groups. I made a meetup group for my local area, and just a bunch of randos showed up, and I started games with people that I did not know at all. And a part of that I didn't want to run in a lot of preset spots, because I can research lore like crazy, and I really get heavily into it. If you go to a city, I will know what the local cuisine is, what it's called, and how it's made. For example, if you go to Mirabar along the Faerun coast, they particularly like a nice nut cheese, where different nuts have been mushed into the cheese, and they serve that with crackers and flatbreads. Because I'm a giant nerd and I do spend too much time on the computer. But a lot of the lore and gods and stuff like that, they're gonna blow right past me, and that's why I like my homebrew worlds. This way, I can introduce the history to the players, and there's more mystery than just I read about it in a wiki somewhere, and I already know what this god is and who they are.
Yep.
Yeah, I will have to say I have to do a lot of research into the areas and the gods and stuff like that. And we've talked about that kind of on previous podcasts, but the Icewind Dale in and of itself is having to learn the backstory of the Frostmaiden and all the crap that happened to her, and then learning all the lore about Icewind Dale. I learned more facts about Dritz than I ever want to know.
You mean anything?
Yeah, pretty much anything.
Don't blaspheme up in here, damn it! I started with those novels.
No, I am sure they're great novels, and R.A. Salvatore is an amazing writer. He's a better writer than I ever will be. But I don't like Dritz. And I don't like the fact that there's a game coming out in 1 month, and me and you are going to have to play it every night.
What game is this? What are we talking about?
Dark Alliance for the PC? You haven't heard?
Oh, if I play Dark Alliance games, it's not going to be on the PC. I'm going to be playing that on the console. That's how those games are designed to be played.
You just play it on the PC, and you take your console controller and you plug it into your PC, and then you use your controller.
I could do that, but that means I have to play it with you.
Yes, and then we have to play it on the Grumpy Dungeon stream on Tuesday instead of 7 Days to Die.
But that's our zombie killing day.
Well, we're gonna get killed by zombies soon, so
That's also true.
If you want zombie killing, just go to Chult.
I'm sure there are plenty of zombies in Dark
Oh,
Alliance.
that's probably also true. Yeah.
So back to the interview at hand.
Oh, who, me?
Getting sidetracked to video games.
Oh
We do,
no,
we do it all the
I've done
time.
a lot of the D&D game. I've played a bunch of the. Actually, when I started streaming, I actually was trying to do a full run through of all of the Baldur's Gate games,
Yeah.
but nobody was interested in watching Baldur's Gate, so I just kept with my D&D prep game stream
It-
instead.
It boggles my mind because I had the same problem. Like Jay here decided to go back and play Magic in front of live people this last Friday instead of playing Left 4 Dead 2 with me on stream. And we did the stream we had before for Left 4 Dead. We got maybe like 7-9 viewers to watch, which is fairly good for us. But
Mhm.
so this Friday I did a campaign thing. You popped by. I had like 15 people, a 15-person average just by
I
being.
told you.
It's so weird. It
Um,
really is.
and I definitely found that there are certain days where I could probably skip streaming altogether because like they're super slow, and it's the weekends. Like of all the things where I thought like if I were going to do a thing and I would have to do it on the weekends, I figured streaming I'd have to do it on the weekends. But I get way more people interested in watching during the week than I do the weekends.
That's because people go out on Fridays and play Magic, and on Saturdays they go play D&D.
Go out? I don't understand these words.
Yeah. That's why I'm really looking forward to doing another D&D stream like on a Wednesday or something like that. I think it may get better numbers than the Saturday game, but the Saturday game's doing pretty good too. We had
Don't
17 people
don't do a
on
D&D
Saturday.
game on Thursdays, whatever you do, because that's Critical Role night.
Oh, of course not. No, I can't run a game on a Thursday night because I'm already going to be watching Critical Role.
Exactly.
I'm not giving that up. Forget that
Yeah.
nonsense.
At this point in time,
Especially
Go
with
ahead.
Loki coming out soon, then that's when I have my back to back, where I watch Critical Role until 2 a.m. and stay up for an extra hour so I could watch the new Marvel show that premieres an hour after. And then I just don't sleep at all
Sleep.
because
What
that's healthy. God, I
So-
actually am going to do that, and I'm horrified at myself already.
so it's the midpoint of the episode, and I'm trying to move this to the midpoint instead of the end point because no one listens to the end point.
Oh,
But
Oh no, here we go again.
oh, so
yeah,
I get extra cursey at the end then?
no,
Oh, okay.
it's just the midpoint. So we have when this podcast comes out, it will be the last day for the Grumpy Dungeon Master giveaway on Facebook.
Oh.
So go to our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, find the giveaway post, like, comment, and share that post, and you'll be entered to win Candlekeep. And if you're listening to this past Tuesday, the day it gets released, just like us on Facebook. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Just look for Grumpy Dungeon Masters. We show up all over the place.
We are everywhere.
And watch us on Twitter whenever we're live, and watch Reverendpanda when he's live, like
You
around
mean-
noon.
You
every
mean
day.
Twitch, not Twitter.
Yeah, Twitch.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah,
The thing with the T.
Yeah, they both start with TW. It's same thing.
yeah, same
Oh, they
thing.
all start with twit.
Yeah, it's the problem. Also, being that it's mid time, it's time to add something to Greg's stat sheet.
Oh,
You mean
that time
yeah.
already.
You mean
Yep.
Greg?
Greg.
All right.
Did I say Greg?
You said
You
Greg.
did say Greg. I thought maybe there was a new guy in the corner.
No,
right.
he's just so insignificant at this point in time because Georg is so better at doing his job than he is. So
Georg is the evil twin of Craig that literally does nothing. He's the goatee wearing version of Craig.
That sounds like a much cooler version then.
yeah,
Cooler version, yes, absolutely. Plus,
Facial hair makes people cooler.
yeah, I should know. I have it. So,
yeah.
Oh, who doesn't?
all right.
I
So
tried
we're
very hard. All right. So
Craig. Craig is our he's our intern, as it were, and we're creating a character for him. Craig is a full orc bard from a barbarian tribe. Craig only plays the flute. Or excuse me, he plays wind instruments. Where his tribe, they only play the drums. So he got picked on a lot growing up, made fun of. His older brother Trevor was particularly vicious towards him. So Craig wanders off, becomes a bard, ends up finding a fairy by the name of Flicker, whom is his girlfriend, according to the person who created Flickr. Don't ask. I don't want to know how that works. You know, whatever. And Craig is also a collector of fine, stabby things. And he also has a bag of holding named Ordu that is made out of the head of an ogre. It is still somewhat sentient. Occasionally, it eats whatever food that Craig puts in there. Sometimes he loses a magic item. So far, he hasn't lost any body parts, fortunately. So, you, Reverend Panda, you get to add another little thing to Craig's story. It could be a stat, it can be a little piece of backstory, it could be another NPC that he knows, whatever you want to do with it.
See, there is one pivotal thing that seems to be missing from Craig, and it's pivotal for so many D&D players and characters everywhere. It's where's the tragedy? Where's the fear? I think Craig needs a phobia and something that caused it.
Oh, okay.
Something that actually sets off that orcish rage. Like maybe he doesn't go to, like the phobia doesn't trigger like quivering panic. Maybe that sets him into like a true-blooded orcish rage, unlike anything else. And I think it's squirrels. I think when he was a little orcish child, he wandered away and he had a bag of snacks with him. And he was, trying to stay away from all the bullies who'd been picking on him because he just wanted to play his flute. And he was wandering through a little field with his flute and with his bag of snacks. And a little squirrel came up, so he gave the squirrel a little treat. And then more came. And he kept trying to feed them all, but they kept getting more and more aggressive. And suddenly he found his poor little orcish legs trying to run away from these squirrels until he was cornered. And finally they just swarmed over him and they stole all of his treats and they put little gnaw marks on his flute. And it was horrible and tragic. And he felt shame ever since that day. And now that he's grown up, nothing brings him shame and then taps into that inner rage like the sight of a damn squirrel.
And now Waples, now he is officially a barbarian, which is what I called him for a long time.
There you go.
He has a level or two of barbarian. That way he can rage.
That sounds great to me. Yeah.
Yep. He only uses it if he sees squirrels. However, he never rages in a fight. Only against squirrels.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That is wonderful.
And that might cause some problems with Flickr down the line. I don't know how she's going to feel about him smashing in tiny squirrel skulls.
That's true. She is a fairy. Fairies are they're part of nature. They do love the wildlife.
I don't know. I might just put a little hitch in that relationship. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a fairy that follows Craig around is just cheering him on no matter what he's doing. Like always giving him little positive reinforcements. Like, yeah, you get that squirrel. Yeah, you smash him. You do good.
She's all about the chaos. Let's see what trouble we can get into today.
Fair.
Like Tinkerbell, just like hey, Peter Pan, just stab Hook. Just stab him.
So she's more of an unseelie court fae than a seelie court.
Yeah.
She doesn't mind a little cruelty and head bashing.
Yep. If you burn down a village with your flute accidentally, shit happens,
Yeah. It's like that Mandalorian gif where Mando was shooting somebody and the little baby Yoda had yeah, do it again.
It's like,
all right, so getting back on track about DM stuff and creating stuff, you focus a lot on world building.
I do.
I love your big maps that you make. They're quite well. Using Incarnate, I believe.
Oh, that is the talk about a project, man.
All right. We can talk about some Incarnate. I spent about 2 hours on it today. I love that. Love it.
Yeah.
I have spent more time in Incarnate than I really want to think about, but it is an amazing program. And it is always one of those things where they have so many tools and so many assets, but I still always want them to make more anyway. Like, I want more things to put in the map.
They're expanding.
More tricks.
Yeah, they just released all the desert stuff
past
week, I think.
And every once in a while, though, I will notice one little hitch in the assets that they don't have, and I'm like, how has this not made it in yet? Like, if you were to build an armory, there's no good like armor stand or like armor like asset or something like that you can put around. You can like mess around with statues and kind of make it look like that, which is a lot of what you do in Incarnate anyway. It's about taking items that aren't actually what they're supposed to be, changing the hues, the saturations, the dimensions, reorientating them, and building something else.
Yep.
It's Legos for people that want to like. It's the same sort of thing as you tap into when you play with Legos. So I have these things, and I'm going to mash them together to build something else.
Can't you just like bring in your own assets that you want?
You can, although you'd be surprised how hard it can be to find nice, good top-down images, unless you just draw them yourself. Which
that's the problem I'm having with. I use Arkenforge, which I just use it because I bought it and I bought all the expansions. They're not adding any new asset packs at all. They haven't for like 2 years. They kind of just like developed the system like you go get your own assets, from wherever you want to get them from, and then make your own. So that's the kind of the issue I'm running into, and it's not very well organized, and searching for the stuff I want is kind of hard. But the program itself was nice. So I'm thinking of switching over to something else, probably Incarnate.
I highly suggest it Incarnate. It can be as fast and easy or as detailed and complicated as you want to make it.
Yeah, I swapped to Incarnate. I had been using Dungeon Draft and Wonder Draft for a while, but I was just sort of hitting a brick wall, specifically with Wonder Draft, because I like making cities, less so about dungeons. But I do love making city maps or even world maps. And Wonder Draft was great for world maps, but the city maps, man, it was just so limited. Then Incarnate, it just expands way past what it was able to do.
Well, if you want to see, stop by my stream sometime because you should check out the map he was talking about, which is when I started my homebrew world. I found Incarnate about the same time, and so I made a regional map for the city of Serendol. And then I put some mountains down. I started seeding different possible adventures that my players could go on for like their first couple levels. Through some kobolds into a mountain, like where they got little raids and stuff like that. And I started there. And then a character died, and they needed to get to the capital. So then I made another map, and that map, I made it so that it would line up with the other map, and then you could follow the road from one map into the other. And then they had a choice then. Are they going to go north or south? Because there was adventure hooks in both directions. So I started making maps that, once again, if you follow the roads, interconnect from one map to the other. I now have something like 20 some odd maps that are all interconnecting, and my regional maps are slowly turning into this huge world map.
That's badass.
Yeah, and it's been great because I can take a map and you can look at it from a distance. You'll see like the curve and the outline. You can kind of see where all the villages and cities are. But then I can take one section of the map and blow it up, and you'll see like, hey, there's a mountain, and I think I see a small house built into the craggy tops of that mountain. I wonder what the hell that is. And that's actually a thing on one of my maps that a player noticed at one point. And like the maps themselves, I've realized make the adventures without me even trying. I did one map, and I had a couple of some of my charity kids I used to run D&D for were hanging out in Discord with me, and we just started, shooting the breeze and making the map together. And one of them's like, "You should drop a tower in the middle of the plains." I'm like, "Okay, what's the tower?" And he's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "All right, I'll drop a tower in the middle of the plains." Yeah, it's surrounded by like clouds and mist. All right, cool. And I surrounded it with clouds and mist. It didn't get a name. It got nothing. And then my players saw that map much later and went, "Oh, what's the tower?" And I was like, "Ah, shit." And so I started coming up with some backstory about like this tower where I was surrounded by mist, and anybody that went into the mist never came back. And the tower had been there since before the foundation of the kingdom. And then was just one of these little weird mysteries of the world. And they're like, "We're going to the tower." I'm like, "You mean the tower that no one's ever come back from, that you have no reason to go to other than you're curious?" And they're like, "Yes." I'm like, "Okay, great." And
that's what adventurers do. That is exactly what they do.
Wandered into the misty, undead-plagued area that had an old-ass vampire who used to rule the land as a robber baron long before the foundations of the kingdom, who lost his son and basically turned to necromancy. His wife survived as a ghost, and his child was a little baby vampire. And they had to go through there and try to remove the curse from the land. And so now I've got to remake the map and move all the mist out of there. And then our other horrible things actually happened as a result of what they did. So I get to update that map soon too. But that's what I mean. Like, all I have to do is like put a thing on it. I've got another part of my world where there's a blasted wasteland and a giant skull, almost the size of a small mountain, with a sword, obviously of appropriate size, jammed through it in the middle of this wasteland where there's nothing growing. And one of my players is so like, oh, "What's that?" And I'm like, "You don't know. You gotta go. You should go find out or ask about it because I don't know yet." But I'm going to throw out there. I'm going to throw a little thing out there in the world, and my players get so excited just seeing these things and not knowing what they are. It's like the easiest plot hooks I could possibly design is just their curiosity.
Oh yeah, players love exploring. Like I always enjoy throwing things out there for players to just look at if at all possible. Yeah, I do. I'm like you. I like building living, sort of breathing worlds, and the entireties of my worlds are never fully explored. You know, if I put together a sectional map and you see some things on there, it's probably something. I may have to come
Yeah.
up with it on the fly, but it's probably something.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I have NPCs that I've designed for some of my locations, which are so near and dear to my heart. I love them with all of my being, and my players have never met them because they just took a left instead of a right down.
Yep.
I'm just like, but no, you didn't meet Granny, who runs the tea shop. I wanted you guys to meet her, and just whatever.
You kind of covered my next question really, and it's like, when you DM, what is the thing you want most out of a player? And you kind of touched on that, but
I want them to be excited. I want them to feel like a sense of investment. That it's not my world, it's their world. I want I want that sense that they actually like they care. It's not just a story that they're like a book you pick up, you put down. It actually means something to them to see what's going to happen next. Um, and I mean, a lot of that I accomplish by like my players actually have letters that they get written from friends or family that I will give to them at different games. That's like, "Oh, son, I hope you're doing well. We haven't heard you since you left home 6 months ago. We're kind of hoping you're all right. Have you met a nice girl yet? Your sister's getting married." Like just little things that throughout the entire way. Where one of my players suddenly had to try to figure out whether or not he was going to go home for his sister's wedding and how he was going to convince the rest of the party that they should go with him.
And if they do, you make an adventure out of the wedding.
Oh yeah, no, trust me. Actually, they tried to go to the wedding. Uh, their boat got waylaid by pirates, and now they've gone 10 days sailing in the wrong direction. And now I don't know if they're going to make it back to the wedding because I honestly thought they were going to run from the pirate encounter. Instead, they fought a very dangerous encounter way a little bit beyond them, and then they surrendered.
Oh no.
So I was like, oh, this was not what I anticipated at all. And now you're in prison and on a pirate ship, and this was not where there was like 4 plots for you guys in that direction, and you're now going the other way. Okay, cool. Moving on.
Speaking of players getting derailed, in my game this weekend, I rolled like a random encounter in the final chapter of Icewind Dale, and I rolled a 77 on a random encounter table, and I ran that random encounter. And then I decided to do another random encounter because enough time had passed between that one and the other one. I rolled for a random encounter, got 77 again. I was like, I'm not going to run the same random encounter twice. So I rolled on random encounter table again, and I got 100.
Oh boy, I know what that one is. Yeah.
And the 100, just the way all the campaigns work, are just the worst option. And in the case of this instance, it's essentially the big bad end guys just walking through the streets on a leisurely stroll. Oh look, there's the party, and they did one thing that I thought they would never do. They ran from a fight. They didn't just like dig in their heels and decide to just go toe to toe with this thing. I was so proud of them that only one of them died.
I have the feeling even my players would have made that same choice. I've talked about my players enough on here. You know how they react most of the time, Waples. But I think they probably would have done the exact same thing initially. Just run the fuck away.
So
But yeah,
that leads me to what I like to do with all our guests is tell me your grumpiest DM story, Reverend Panda.
My grumpiest DM story.
Yeah, we got to keep on brand, man.
yeah. I mean,
No, no,
we're
no,
grumpy.
no. It's just there's so many options.
You can tell us like if you got a couple short ones, tell us that too.
All right,
We
I'll
can
hit you with
rant.
this. I'll give you the one that will always jump to first in mind. And I might have mentioned this to you once before. So I mentioned a couple times that I've actually run. I used to work for a charity called Heroes Journey. We ran D&D sessions Saturday mornings at local libraries for kids from the ages 11 to 17. It was a lot of fun. I did this for many, many years. But I had two simple rules for all of my kids. One was you can't be evil, because I wasn't going to run murder hobos with little kids who then go home and tell their parents about how they slaughtered an orphanage. So that was right out the door. No evils. You have to actually be heroes, which is in line with the Hero's Journey name of the charity. And two, don't give me stupid names. Don't just come up with something fantasy. I'll help you if you need it, but please, don't play Dipply Doop the Dickly Dockle or some. Actually, I probably would accept that.
If you're a gnome, that's acceptable.
If you're a gnome, it's acceptable. If you're that's your serious dwarf name, I'm gonna be like, all right, come on, buddy. But I had one kid who will remain nameless, of course, who made up a rogue character, and he wanted to play Frodo Saggins.
Of course he did.
And I said no, and he complained and whined like a little kid does, and he wanted to play Frodo Saggins, and I said no. And I said, listen, you mean if you do this, I cannot guarantee your survival, and I'm almost tired of arguing with him. I just let you play this character. And he's like, fine, I'm going to play Frodo Saggins. And I'm like, okay, great. Well, luckily, I didn't have to worry about him too much, despite the fact that he was driving me insane from the second the game started. Because then they met up for their next mission, and it was a choice of going down to a swamp that was having problems with a hag, or traveling north to some dwarven clans that were having a problem. And he starts going to the captain of the guild that he's like, he wants to fight a beholder. And the captain's looking at him like, what are you talking about, Frodo Saggins? He's like, I want to fight a beholder. I'm a great hero. My uncle stole gold from a dragon. And I'm sitting here going, oh, God damn it. Just okay, now it's not just a name, and you're trying, no, God, stop. And he just kept going, I want to fight a beholder. I'm like, do you even know what a beholder is? He's like, no. I want to fight a beholder. I'm like, you know what? We got one in the basement. You sure you want to fight it? I'll put you down in the basement with it. And he's like, yes. So I put him in the basement, and I put him up against the beholder by himself, and he died in one shot.
Disintegrate doesn't care.
Thus was the end of Frodo Saggins. And then he came back saying he wanted to play Frodo Saggins Jr., and I said, go see the other DM stable. And I passed him off to the other one, because, I ran for kids. A lot of kids. I dealt with a lot of kid problems. But, man, that kid had no one drove me crazy like he did.
I've seen that kind of player before. I feel for you.
So that's a real nice quick one. Just damn that stupid name, Frodo Saggins. Haunt my nightmares.
That's one of my pet peeves too. Come up with real names, for the love of God. You're going to be playing these characters possibly for years.
Exactly. I have to come up with storylines for your shitty character name. At least give me something to work with.
Yeah, I can't think of character names at all forever. None of the character names that I've ever used at any RPG or anything like that were of my own creation. Even my LARP character was given to me by a friend, And on my last stream, when you popped on, Panda, it was essentially it's like, hey, give me your L names. You want to know why that was? Because I wasn't going to think of any. And
That's fair.
now I have a list of 20 to use, so I'm set.
Yeah, there you go.
Shit, my player's a nice one, Dale. They just met Dave and Steve again.
And I don't mind either silly names or simple names or anything else like that. But like, don't give me like if you want to play Drizitzel or Drozitz and you're gonna like name some Drow character one letter off from Dritz, just stop talking to me. I don't want to. Just no, stop it.
I mean, that kind of leads into a point that we don't really talked about yet, too, is like players who just copy well-known PCs that exist out there in the world. Like, if you come to me and you want to play a Drow, good-aligned warrior that's a ranger, I hate you. I just don't.
In the RPGA, I met a half-elf bard named Chris Jerkins.
That's actually kind of funny.
And it was until he started trying to do the voice that we all know what Chris Perkins sounds like. And it's just like, oh, buddy, no. Stop.
Have either of you guys ever had a player like be like a bard or something like that, and then all they want to do in play is play Drums and Dragons?
No.
Nope.
That would be amazing.
I thought you were going to ask me if I've ever had the seduction bard.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I want to seduce the dragon. Go ahead, buddy.
I have never had a seduction bard.
I have played in a party with somebody like that before. Yeah, it sucks.
The last time I had a bard coming into my game, I actually stopped. I was talking to mid character creation. I'm like, listen, just so you know, if you want to play a seduction bard, you can, but don't be surprised if there's actual consequences. Because I'm a big fan of that. You wink at the dragon, and the dragon winks back, and you better make a Constitution save.
All right, giggity.
Like, all right, go. I'm not going to roleplay that scene with you, but you're going to make some saves. And I think that might deter. Maybe that's why I don't get seduction bards in my games.
Hey, is it getting hot here, guys, or is it just me? Oh, he's burning to death. All right, so what's your non-quick but grumpy story then?
Oh, let's see.
And the silence came over the crowd.
Yeah.
No worries. I edit the podcast.
Tiger is going for par. He hits the ball. Ooh, short.
So let's see. It's those moments where. So, all right, something specific. All right, so I had set up a goblin encampment not that long ago for some of my players. It was meant to be a simple encounter. It was a sort of thing where they were having a quick stop from A to B, and there wasn't going to be a whole lot involved in it. It was sort of a raid that they were going to basically stop this camp from raiding out. So they infiltrated it and they're attacking the night, and they're doing a pretty good job of getting through, and they kill some ogres, they kill some goblins. Great, fantastic. It was a real nice, simple hack and slash little mission for them, just to sort of keep the wet the palate as they move on to the next thing. But there was a cave that was there, and I determined that while the cave led back to like the true goblin hold deep underneath the ground, and was therefore heavily trapped to the point where it would cause a cave collapse if they attempted to go too far into it. It was that sort of thing where, yes, there's a pathway there, but maybe don't go that way. Or if they do, then I'm going to be running a really cool adventure as they then find a goblin hole deep underground. So it wasn't possible, but there was a whole lot of risk. And so the party, though, all recognized the possible danger of going into the cave. So they're cleaning up the camp, moving the bodies, searching for stuff. And then the Warforged fighter goes, I'm going to go in the cave. And the rest of the party's like, that's a bad idea. And he's like, well, I want to go. And the rest of the party's like, well, we actually have to get somewhere. And so the rest of the party's talking about like they're going to pack up their stuff. They're going to start heading out of the camp. And the 4 out of 5 of them do. And then the Warforged fighter goes, I go in the cave. I'm like, okay. So he walks in there. He triggers the first trap, which was just like a simple little, like, thwip dart trap of nonsense. Just so that there's a little warning shot to be like, hey, this might be a bad plan. And he got hit with that, and he's like, I'm going to keep going. The entire time I'm sitting there, I'm like, you're splitting the party. You're going somewhere. And you're doing this just in, like, you could tell from his tone of voice that he was doing it, and he knew it was dumb, but he was doing it because he thought that, like, he could find some sort of loot or treasure that everybody else that missed, and he was being super smart about it. And I'm just like, just walk away. And then he triggered the next trap, which was an explosion trap. And he dropped. And then I had to listen to this player complain about the fact that then everybody else had to, like, rush back and try to save him and drag him back out of the cave and try to get him before his death saves failed. And it just became this whole little thing where the player that drives me crazy is the one that just gets it into their head that this is the thing they're going to do, despite the fact the rest of the party is clearly not on board. And then they go and they trigger consequences that just dicks everybody else over. And this entire event wouldn't have been a problem in the long run for me, because players do on occasion just do a dumb thing. Until 3 games later, in a Temple of the Cult of the Dragon, my players were trying to get through this maze of this temple, and they get to the one part where they're like, all right, we're injured and we got to go and rest because we're all on the brink of death. And the Warforged fighter looked at the door of the head cultist room, and he's like, but I want to see what's in there. And the rest of the players are like, no, we don't know what's back there. Let's just retreat for now and go rest. And the rest of the party starts making their way, moving their tokens through Roll20 back to the door, and then the Warforged just walks into the office, setting off a glyph of warding, which then explodes.
Yep.
And again, he dropped it. It's like, that's what made me angry. That got this true grump out of me. It's you didn't learn your lesson the first time, and then you did the exact same thing again. It's the same thing. What are you doing? I work on an experience point system, and I don't dock experience points, but this one time I wanted to so bad. So just be like, lose 2 levels for stupidity.
So a question about this is the.
Sorry, I lost my voice a little there on that one too.
Oh no, that's the best rant we've had in a while on here. That's good.
He's going to hear this podcast too, and I'm going to hear about this later.
Well, we don't know who you are, so nothing to worry about.
I know who you are.
No, you don't. Stop.
My question: is it a low wisdom character?
No.
Because if it's an actively low wisdom, below 10 character, that is sort of the trait of what wisdom is as far as D&D is kind of concerned.
I'd say you were like that would be justified if I thought that's what was going on.
Yeah, now there is also the possibility the player just decided to do this, and that's where you as the DM, because
he is one of my few players from that group that is on their second character.
Yeah. So it might be the player just isn't up to some players are just that way. I've had them in my parties before.
In some regards, he's a great player in other things, but sometimes he just gets into his head these particular choices where I'm just like, stop. And all right, so that was both of his Warforged characters. His character previous to the one, like I said, he's on a second character. His last character died because they decided to scout ahead away from the rest of the party. He didn't tell anybody where he was going, and he walked into a dungeon room that was marked the cleaning cupboard. The cleaning cupboard is where they stored the gelatinous cube that they would let out to move through the hallways and clean up all of the mess. Yes, it was a little silly. I thought it was kind of cute. But when a player finds the gelatinous cube, walks into the room, and therefore into the cube, and they're by themselves and everybody else is minimum 4 turns away, that's just you're gone.
Rule number 1 of D&D:
Don't split the party.
don't split the party. That is fucking rule number 1. Everyone knows it if you've played more than a couple of games. So
Yeah, and I would like to think that and everybody does know that, and yet it is the most common broken rule.
yeah.
My other group just recently broke into. It's a 5-man group. They broke into 4 groups.
Oh my lord.
There was 2 people together, and then 3 other guys all fucked off by themselves. I'm just like, you guys are killing me, and then you're killing yourselves.
At that point, you're then running 4 separate
They're
games.
like, this mission is hard, and I'm like, I wonder why.
Yeah.
See, you're just making me rant from one problem into the next. And he has a 10 wisdom. He didn't dump it to an 8, so I can't excuse much.
Yeah, 10 is average. There's no excuse.
Well, he's also wearing a top hat of intelligence, which was supposed to go to a artificer character, and then the artificer character bumped his natural intelligence up and didn't need any more. So now I've got a Warforged Eldritch Knight walking around with a 19 intelligence, and yeah, that dumb guy is still walking through random doors.
Wow.
So yeah, so 10 wisdom, 19 intelligence, still goes into a room by himself and blows up.
For Reverendpanda's players who do hear this, don't split the party. Don't do it.
And I don't hate paladins, no matter how often they tend to die in my games.
But we do hate rogues.
Yeah.
I hate monks more.
Oh,
why?
No. We're not going to talk about this, Wayples.
Tell us why you hate monks, please.
Stunning fist. Stunning strike. Stunning strike alone. Fucking hate. God damn that ability. I've set up in like dungeons with these complex monsters, and all it takes is one monk with one lucky stunning strike. The fucking dragon is stunned. Everyone gets advantage. Crits galore. Fucking, and a dragon dies in a turn and a half. And a month's worth of dungeon development is just like, oh, and that entire thing is gone now. Okay, great.
Well, all right.
Stupid monks.
I love it.
Stupid monks.
I've heard that exact same rant before, in case you couldn't tell.
I know. Freaking monks.
Yeah, the Stunning Fist is hard to counter in 5th edition, and that's all they got. They're squishy.
Almost, and so few monsters actually have immunity to stun. Like it's a like 1 in 100 has like immunity to stun. It's so rare. It makes it such a powerful ability.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody has their sort of pet peeve thing. For me, it's fucking Tasha's hideous laughter. I hate it more than anything. I hate it because there's no resistance to it. If you fail to save, no matter what, like it works on fucking everything. So long, and I think there might be you have to have a certain level of intelligence, but as long as you have any level of intelligence, it just fucking works on you. A god doesn't matter. Fucking undead dragons, it works on everything.
It's true.
Well, wait, no.
I mean, it's the wisdom save, and I'm actually looking at it again because I've never actually run into this problem before.
Oh, fucking, I've run into it all the time.
Well, first off, it's a spell from Tasha, and we all know that Tasha is bae.
That is true.
Some of my favorite cosplays are seeing Tasha cosplays.
Target must succeed on a wisdom save or fall prone, becoming incapacitated, unable to stand for the duration, concentration up to a minute. Creature with intelligence score of 4 or less is not affected.
Yeah. But I mean, they get a resave on it at the end of every turn at least.
Well, it's just like, some monsters just have immunities. You're immune to charming magic, you're immune to this type of magic, you're immune to this thing. There's nothing for Tasha's hideous laughter. Nothing.
Although I will say this, the second to last line is my own. Now I see my only real problem with hideous laughter is the target has advantage on saving throws if it's triggered by damage. Damage should just end the effect, like it does with almost any other charm-like ability.
Yeah, but it's
the fact that all it does is give you advantage is just dumb.
Yeah, but it's not a charm effect at all. Yeah, that's
I know it's not a charm effect, but it's it's the same essence as one though.
Yeah, but what happens is even if you break out of the effect after one round, you still fall prone for that entire round. You're just fucked. It's the equivalent of the stunning fist. You're just screwed.
Yeah, but at least range attacks are disadvantage.
Yeah, you get that at least.
Yeah,
So,
when you're stunned, everything's advantage. Doesn't matter near, far, close, whoever.
yeah, but some things are immune to stunning. Nothing's immune to Tasha's hideous laughter.
Right.
True.
And at least it's not
True.
paralyzed, because that's my favorite combo.
Ugh, yeah.
So before we leave, we let everyone plug like their thing. So you wanted to plug a
Oh.
couple things, so go ahead and plug away.
First, everybody, if you got a spare dollar or so, or two or whatnot, there's a great charity that I mentioned earlier called Hero's Journey. They run games for kids. Get kids out from just hanging out in random places or sitting at home in front of screens. They get them out into a local place, play some D&D, socialize, even get to take them to gaming conventions on a field trip, usually about twice a year, once the world becomes sane again. And it's a great charity. And if you're looking for a link to them, you can find them at my other plug, which is you can find them on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/Reverendpanda, where I tend to stream mostly every day from 12 to 4 with the occasional late night stream, doing campaign prep, NPCs, map art, and basically anything else nerdy you could possibly want to talk about. Bring it on. I like to expand my nerdy reaches and always welcome new people to talk to and hang out with.
Yeah, and he's got a channel point thing that makes a dragon roar at him and he gets scared.
Oh, I made the damn thing so loud. I made it so loud, and then you got like 10,000 points. I was only charging 500 for it, and you're freaking roaring at me every 10 seconds. I thought I was going to crap my pants.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I love it. He's taking troll lessons. That's
like,
awesome.
I don't remember what I was working on, but I remember I was very much like in this like focus zone, trying to do a thing, and then just comes blasting into my headphones. Holy hell!
The best part was too is I sent him some bits. I sent him like 100 bits, and he was, "Oh, Grumpy, thanks for the bits." And then on the dragon roar.
And then of course my sound alerts broke one day, and that's the day you didn't come by. I was waiting for you to like come in and start spamming dragons, and I'm like, oh, he was here. I think you did it once.
Yeah, I did it once. It was broke,
you did it once, and I was like, oh crap, it's fixed again, so you can come bother me again with it.
Oh, I will.
Okay, cool.
All right, well that's all we have for today. Craig can now leave.
Again.
And get us
Bye, Craig.
Dinner.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Georg.
Bye, Cooler Craig.
Bye, Cooler Craig.
Hey, guys. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Check us out on Facebook at...
There's no at in Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
And on Twitter.
That'd be at Grumpy_DMs.
And on Instagram.
At Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
And also be sure to follow us on Twitch.
Twitch.tv/Grumpy Dungeon Masters, where we play Rime of the Frostmaiden every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Fuck yeah.